Hey guys, this is Dave from Audio. Today we're going to be comparing 8 different portable DACs under $100. I'm going to take a similar approach to the first portable DAC video I released a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to briefly talk about each DAC and give you its price. Then I want to cover what I feel are the most important or pertinent specifications and attributes. Then I'll talk a little about my experience with each device and its versatility. And then later, I'll pick the one that I think is the best overall value or best bang for your buck. And then finally, I'll pick the one that I feel offers the best overall performance regardless of price. But before we jump in, I just quickly want to give a shout out to Timmy for giving me the opportunity to be a part of the Audio team. This has been an absolutely incredible experience, and the Audio team has been so gracious and supportive. And I also want to thank you, the Audio family. You guys have been just so supportive and encouraging to me, and I'm extremely grateful for that. Now, I know based on some of the comments I've read, there has been some confusion as to why there's some dude popping up doing random reviews, so I want to hopefully try and clear things up a bit. So the way this will work is basically I will be covering all of the desktop or portable DACs, DAPs, and amps, maybe throw in an occasional headphone or ear tip review, and Timmy will be covering the IEMs and headphones or anything else he wants because this is his channel, which I have to say his reviews are simply amazing. He's one of the best in my opinion. But the goal I think here at Audio is to try and cover all things personal and portable audio, not just IEMs and headphones. So hopefully this makes a little more sense to you guys. Now, all right, let's move on. So the portable DACs we will be covering are the 7 Hertz 71, which comes in at $35, which I believe is the newest one to the market. The Muse Hi-Fi M1, which comes in at $39. The Muse Hi-Fi M1 Smart, which is also $39. The Fio Jade K2, which comes in at $59. The Ico ITM02, which comes in at $59. The Moondrop Dawn, which is $69. The Fio KA3, which is $89. And finally, the Hibi FC4, which comes in at $89 as well. So these DACs are all very simple plug and play devices and basically all do the same thing. They plug into your source via USB, you plug your headphones in, then the DAC converts the signal from digital to analog, then the amplifier amplifies the sound and sends the signal to your headphone. None of these devices have Bluetooth, so they can only receive an audio signal via USB. And they do not have batteries, so they're all powered by whatever device you have it connected to. And battery efficiency is one of those things we'll be covering. Only one of the 8 has volume control buttons, and that's the Hibi FC4. So everything else here is controlled by the volume of your source device. Also, 4 of the 8 devices have both balanced and single-ended outputs, and 4 have only single-ended outputs. And generally, the ones with the single-ended outputs only are less expensive. Okay, so the order I have them in is least expensive to most expensive. So I'll just go over each one in that order to keep things simple. Okay, so let's talk about the 7 Hertz 71 first. The 71 is the newest to the market and costs $35, so it's the least expensive device on the table. As you can see, the 71 is very small and it has an attached USB Type-C cable, and it only has a single-ended 3.5 output. I do prefer a detachable USB cable, but that's just me. As for the basic specifications, it has an AKM AK4377 and has 70 milliwatts of power output. It can decode up to 32 bits and DSD 128 and is compatible with Android, iOS, Windows and Mac. It also has a light indicator that changes based on the audio signal. As for sound, it's very quiet, so there's no perceivable noise. It comes across as fairly neutral, but does lean towards the more musical side, so the sound does seem somewhat smoothed over, as you would expect from an AKM chip. As for resolution, it's definitely good for a device at this price point, but there are devices in this lineup that do have better resolution. The 70 milliwatts of power is sufficient to power all of my IEMs, but it does struggle a little to power my full-size headphones. The build quality is good, and so far it's held up to my regular routine very well. As for power efficiency and battery drain, I didn't notice any excessive battery drain at all, so it seems to be quite efficient in that regard. Now, moving on to the Muse M1. The M1 is a very compact device. As a matter of fact, it's the smallest device I've ever tried. It plugs directly in to the Type-C USB port on your source device. It's the second least expensive device on the table, coming in at $39. Like the 71, it only has a single-ended 3.5 output. However, it only has about half of the power output of the 71, producing about 30 milliwatts of power. So it will probably struggle to drive full-size headphones. I know it did struggle with mine, and even some harder to drive IEMs. However, it drives all of my IEMs pretty well. It has a Realtek ALC5686 DAC chip and decodes up to 32-bit and DSD 128. As for sound, this does have a somewhat colored presentation with just a slight emphasis on mid-bass and treble. The mids seem to be smoothed out a little, and as for resolution, it's okay. I think it's about what you'd expect from a device at this price point. It's very power efficient, so the battery drain on my phone is minimal at best. The build quality is good, feels fairly robust, and seems to handle my daily usage quite well. One thing I don't particularly like about the design is just having to be super careful about how I handle it. I'm a little worried that I'm going to bump it or something's going to get caught on something and either it will damage my phone or the device itself will get damaged. I just prefer, I guess, to have a cable. But that, again, that's just my personal preference. Now, moving on to the Muse M1 Smart. Again, the Muse M1 Smart is the same price as the regular M1. It comes in at $39. It has an attached Type-C USB cable. Now, as far as specifications, sound, and performance, they're basically the same as the regular M1. So to save time, I'm just going to kind of cover the differences the M1 and the M1 Smart have. So again, it comes in at $39 and is also available with a lightning adapter as well. As you can see, it also has a Type-C output on the side, and that is for what Muse calls their device charging pass-through feature. That's kind of a unique feature, I guess. So basically the differences are the M1 Smart has an attached cable, a charging pass-through feature, and an indicator light. The regular M1 does not. Okay, now let's move on to the Fio Jade K2. This device comes in at $59 and also has an attached USB Type-C cable. So what does the K2 offer that the M1 does not for the extra 20 bucks? Well, quite a bit actually, starting with a balanced 4.4 output. It's also equipped with dual CS43131 DACs, putting out 153 milliwatts of power, which is actually the same DAC used in the Moondrop Dawn. However, the Moondrop's implementation of the CS43131 is slightly different, but we'll talk about that when we go over the Dawn. The 153 milliwatts of power is more than enough power to drive all of my IEMs, and even sounds decent with my LCD-X 2021s. However, when paired with my Sivga SV023s, the sound seemed to thin out a little. I was able to achieve good volume levels, but I could tell it was starting to struggle just a little bit when I pushed it. As for audio formats, it decodes up to 32-bit and DSD 256. You can also control it with the Fio control app, which allows you to switch between high and low gain, and also gives you 5 different filter options. Regarding power efficiency, I didn't notice any abnormal battery drain, so it seemed to be about on par with most other dongles. As for its sound, the Ka2 comes across as fairly neutral, but leans slightly towards the more musical, engaging side. The Ka2 has really good resolution, and in terms of technicalities, it is at least on par or better than most of the other devices in this lineup. It's also very quiet, so there's no noticeable background noise, and of course I tested that with my Andromeda 2020s. And as for design and build quality, the Ka2 has a very small form factor, as you can see, and is very pocketable. The housing is all metal, so it's quite durable and held up very well to my daily routine. Okay, so let's move on to the Ico Zerta ITM02. The ITM02 comes in at $59, and as you can see, it has a detachable USB cable. The one I have here is a Type C, but it does come with a lightning cable as well. It has a 3.5 single-ended output, and it gives you 75 milliwatts of power output at 32 ohms, so it does have enough power to power all of my IEMs pretty well, but it does struggle a little with my headphones, my LCD-X 2021s and my SV023s. As for specifications, the ITM02 uses an AKM AK4377, which is the same DAC that is in the 7 Hertz 71, but the 71 only costs $35. And in terms of sound, it sounds almost identical to the 71. So the ITM02 has good resolution, but not any better than the 71. And the overall presentation of the ITM02, like the 71, is kind of smoothed over. It has a very quiet background, so that's definitely good. I tested that with my Andromedas. Regarding audio formats, it supports PCM up to 32 bits and DSD 128. It also has a light indicator that tells you what your current audio format is. Now, honestly, if you're not worried about having a detachable cable, I would just go for the 7 Hertz 71 because it has every feature the ITM02 has and sounds just as good for a lot less money. Or for the same price, you can just get the Ka2 and double your power output. Just remember the Ka2 only has the 4.4 balanced output, not a 3.5. Okay, let's move on to the Moondrop Dawn. The Moondrop Dawn comes in 2 different versions. It has a 3.5 single-ended version, which costs $65, and a 4.4 balanced version, which costs $70. It only comes with an attached Type C connector, not a Lightning, but according to the website, it will work with a Type C to Lightning adapter. As for specifications, it has dual CS43131 DAC chips with fully balanced architecture and decodes PCM up to 32-bit and DSD 256. It has a power output of 230 milliwatts at 32 ohms and 54 milliwatts at 300 ohms. It also has an impressive maximum of 4 volts output in high gain. So that's more than enough power to power pretty much any IEM I have. And it also did really well with my LCD-X 2021s and my SV023s. It did have to work a little bit harder with my SV023s, but I was able to achieve really good listening levels and it sounded pretty good. You can also download the Moondrop Link app, which allows you to switch between high and low gain, and it also gives you some filter options. As for power efficiency, the Dawn is very efficient. I didn't notice any abnormal amount of battery drain at all. The build is good. The housing is made out of aluminum, so it feels quite robust. And so far it's held up really well with my daily usage. It's quite small, so it's quite portable and quite pocketable. And as for sound, it comes across as neutral to my ears. It has excellent resolution and extension. I didn't notice any sharpness to the notes at all, so it's just a very pleasant presentation overall, in my opinion. And when I tested for background noise with my Andromeda 2020s, it passed with flying colors. No perceivable background noise at all. So this thing is very, very quiet. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the Fio Jade Audio KA3. The KA3 comes in at $89, so we're getting closer to the top of our budget range. So you have a $20 jump from the Moondrop Dawn and a $54 jump from our least expensive device, which is the 71. So the question is, what do you get for the additional cost? Well, right out of the gate, you get both a 3.5 single-ended output and a 4.4 balanced output. 3.5 output gives you 130 milliwatts at 32 ohms of power, while the 4.4 output gives you 240 milliwatts of power. It didn't have a problem with any of my IEMs, but it did struggle to push my SV023s out of the 3.5. However, when I plugged my SV023s into the 4.4, the 4.4 power output drops to 56 milliwatts at 300 ohms. So it wasn't like a huge improvement out of the balance, but I did notice a slight improvement nonetheless. I was able to reach pretty decent volume levels out of the 4.4 with my SV023s, but the sound did seem to thin out slightly when I started to push it. It didn't have any problem at all powering my LCDX 2021s out of the 4.4. I was able to reach good volume levels, and the sound signature of my LCDXs remained fairly consistent even when I pushed it up close to its max output. You also get the flagship ESS ES9038Q2M DAC chip, which can decode up to 32-bit and DSD512. You also get a detachable USB Type-C and a light indicator that changes color based on the audio format. You can also use the Theo control app for an added level of control. As I mentioned earlier, it gives you the option to change gain modes along with some other useful features. Regarding the sound, it's fairly balanced. It did come across as a little more on the relaxed or soft side. It has adequate resolution, but it's definitely not what I would consider analytical at all. I would actually categorize it as more of a musical presentation. And as for power efficiency, it doesn't cause any abnormal amount of battery drain, but I did notice it does get a little bit warm, but not a big deal at all. I think that's pretty normal. The build and design are good, but it's a little larger, as you can see, than some of the other devices. It is pocketable, so it's very transportable. And again, just overall the build and the design is very, very nice. Okay, let's move on to the Hibi FC4. Okay, now the Hibi FC4 also comes in at $89, which is the same price as the Fio KA3 and is almost at the top of the budget range. It also has a removable Type-C cable, but if you want to use it with your iPhone, you have to purchase an adapter or lightning cable. Like the KA3, the FC4 also has a 3.5 single-ended and a 4.4 balanced output, but the FC4 has something the KA3 does not, and that is a 30-step independent volume control rocker on the side. It also has a light indicator that changes colors according to the audio format. As for power output, the FC4 gives an impressive 340 milliwatts and 3.3 volts RMS at 32 ohms out of the 4.4 and 110 milliwatts and 1.9 volts RMS at 32 ohms out of the 3.5 single-ended output. It supports up to 32-bit and DSD-256, and it also supports MQA. As a matter of fact, this is the only device in this lineup that does support MQA if you use MQA a lot. You also get some additional sound options when you use the FC4 with the Hibi Music app. Now, it doesn't have switchable gain modes, but because of the independent volume hardware button, you have all of the control you need, really. So with sensitive IEMs, I just turn down the volume control on the device and make the adjustments with my phone or PC. As for the sound presentation, I would categorize the FC4 as neutral, leaning warm, maybe. It's very quiet, so there is no perceivable background noise when paired with sensitive IEMs. It has excellent resolution and extension, and honestly, I didn't feel that it lacked as far as sound in any way. The FC4 is just a great sounding DAC in every regard, in my opinion. As for power efficiency, I experienced no abnormal battery drain, so it seemed to be about on par with the rest of the devices in the lineup. Okay, so now it's time to reveal my choice for the best value or best bang for your buck. So basically, this is the DAC that I feel offers the best quality, performance, and features for the price. And the DAC that I think meets all of those criteria is the Moondrop Dawn. And this was actually kind of a tough decision because initially I was considering giving the spot to the 7 Hertz 71, which is only $35. And that's great if you're on a budget and you only have IEMs or headphones with 3.5 connectors. But the reality is it's just a dongle with no special features. Do I recommend it? Sure. Again, if you're on a tight budget, I think it's a solid option, but in terms of features, performance, and value, I think it's worth spending the extra money and just getting the Dawn. So just to kind of recap what you get for $69, you get a 4.4 balanced output that gives you 230 milliwatts of power, which is almost the same as the KA3, but for $20 less, and has 77 milliwatts of more power than the KA2 for only $10 more. And again, it has an impressive 4 volts maximum output in high gain, which is awesome for full-size headphones. And for $65, you can opt for the 3.5 single-ended version if you want. You can also use it in combination with the Moondrop Link app and access more features like gain control and 5 different filters. And again, the sound performance of this little thing is really good, even with sensitive IEMs, because it basically has no background noise at all. Bottom line, this is a very solid little device for the price, and I feel is well deserving of the title Best Bang for Your Buck. Okay, so now it's finally time to choose my top pick. So this is the device that I feel gives you the best performance and features under $100. Now, of course, this is my choice based on the devices that I've heard and that I've actually owned in the past. I know there are a lot of devices out there that I haven't heard, so all I can do is base this on what I've actually owned or currently have. So that being said, the DAC that I feel is most deserving of the title Best DAC under $100 goes to the Hibi FC4. Now, not only is the Hibi FC4 the only device that has a hardware volume control, it also has both a 3.5 single-ended and a 4.4 balanced output, and offers 340 milliwatts and 3.3 volts RMS at 32 ohms out of the 4.4, which is substantially higher than any other device in this lineup. Now, the KA3 does offer 20 more milliwatts of power from the 3.5 than the FC4, but for me, 110 milliwatts is plenty, and I mainly use the 4.4 output anyway. And if I were to award a second place to a DAC, that would definitely go to the KA3. But again, the FC4 does almost everything the KA3 does, but offers a substantial increase in power performance and adds a hardware volume control for the same price. And it sounds just as good. It also does support MQA, which that may be a feature that appeals to some of you, or maybe it doesn't, but it does offer that. So the Dawn takes home the Giz Audio Best Value Award, and the Hibi FC4 takes the top spot as the best DAC under $100, and the KA3 gets an honorable mention. So that concludes this comparison and challenge for the best value and best DAC under $100. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please like this video, please share this video, and please subscribe to the Giz Audio channel. I hope you guys have an awesome day.